Welcome to the Coach Dave Love podcast with NBA shooting coach Dave Love and your host, Matt Robertson, exploring the cutting edge of evidence-based shooting development in basketball today, from shooting form to skill acquisition to shot metrics. This is the Coach Dave Love podcast.
Welcome to the Coach Dave Love podcast. I am your host, Matt Robertson. With me, as always, NBA shooting coach Dave Love. Dave, what's going on this week?
Oh my goodness, I have so much going on this week. While actually in town, so I did clinics in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. I think we had like 300 kids through clinics in basically a day and a half. It was bananas. I've now working on the revisions to a research paper that we've submitted. I'm trying to solve a technical problem on like data collection, and then supporting the NBA team that I'm working for. So it's a lot. It's been quite the week.
Just keeping the balls in the air. I'm shocked you had 300 kids in Saskatoon. I thought that was the population of Saskatoon. Just kidding. For all the Saskatchewanites out there.
Saskatchewanians. Yeah. But
Dave, we have a super special guest today. I'm going to let you do the intro of the career before we jump into it. Why don't you fire me up?
Yeah, this is Hanno Möttölä. Am I pronouncing it Hanno? Am I getting your name close? Like, is that the...
Yeah.
How would a Finnish person say it?
Which I got two N's, so it's Hanno, but a lot of North Americans go with a one N, Hanno. That's fine. And last name, I've heard a lot of butchering, so Möttölä is the right pronunciation, but whatever you got going on, I've heard it. So Hanno Möttölä is just fine.
You have by far the most dots over vowels in any name of any guest that we've had. Like, it's not even close. So congratulations on that record.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I told I'm probably the only Finnish athlete who actually asked those dots on these jerseys. We got all these NHL players, and they never have the dots. So like Teemu Selänne, that. He's supposed to have that, but so I always, if it was a EuroLeague or NBA or college, I always ask first day to go to the trainer or gear guy, hey, got to put the dots up there. So it's a totally different letter. We have an O and A, but then we have an O and A with the dots. So we have two extra letters, actually three in our alphabet.
And forgive me for being an ignorant North American. What is the correct name of the accent versus calling them the dots?
I guess it's umlauts. I guess German. That's kind of I guess it's an umlaut, but it's yeah. So I gotta say it's O and A with the dots. I guess that's the explanation.
Okay.
The explanation I give people.
Okay, well, I appreciate you explaining that to me. I'll let me explain to people, for the people who don't know who you are. Hanno played for Rick Majerus with the Utah Utes from 96 to 2000.
Yep.
Was the 40th pick in the NBA draft to the Atlanta Hawks. Played a couple of years with the Hawks, and then another 11 years over in Europe.
Yeah. I moved back, played EuroLeague, and then finished my career back home, and then kind of jumped right into coaching 10 years ago.
And tell us about your coaching jobs that you've had over the last 15 years or so.
Yeah. Well, I've for the last 12 years, I've basically worked for the Finnish Basketball Federation. We started 2012. We started our own high school federation-led academy, in very much in the shape of Australia Center of Excellence in Canberra, or the INSEP in France, kind of the older model of INSEP, and so those were kind of some of the places that the federation people benchmarked when we started the Helsinki Basketball Academy. So I jumped right into there and been doing that. First 2 years I was still playing, so I was kind of doing it on the side. But then the last 10 years when I retired 2014 after the FIBA World Cup. Next week, I was there coaching and being full time for 10 years, and now decided this fall to step away from that. And so I'm kind of, self-forced, unemployed, kind of taking a 10-year men's or a gap year, whatever you want to call it. But I and since 2019, I've been with the men's national team. So I stay with that. So we're getting ready for the European Championships. We're actually hosting one of the opening pools here. So that's obviously really big one to look forward to this next summer.
Hanno, can you explain for people, can you explain to the people that might not understand what the Helsinki Basketball Academy or the Center of Excellence in Australia, what those are and what they look like? Can you explain that?
Well, basically, it's probably good to start. What is the goal? And I actually had a chance to visit Canberra this fall. Their goal is to develop men's and women's national team players for Basketball Australia. Our goal at HBA is to develop men's and women's senior national team players. That's the end goal. So it's a kind of Olympic Committee, Federation, and the city funded program. Basically, we try to recruit the best future talent, not necessarily who's great at when they're entering high school, because we all know, you have some players who are still really, really good at the age of 16, but it's not too hard to figure out that, hey, in 2 years, he's approaches his ceiling. So that's the model. We recruit the players in. It's a right attached to the biggest sports high school in the country, same one I went to, and a lot of other great athletes, Olympic athletes. So it's a really good environment. About 1,000 students. We just built a new Helsinki Olympic Training Center. We have a beautiful world-class basketball facilities. So basketball is one of the 5 top sports that the facility and kind of the Olympic Committee in that center is putting resources in. So so it's players, they lead their junior clubs, so they don't play their junior clubs anymore, and the team plays in the second highest men's league in Finland, and that's basically what HBA is.
Hanno, can you help me understand again, as an average Canadian who doesn't really have ties to Finnish basketball, what is the demographics of those excellence programs? Are they mostly Finnish league professional players, or junior league, or junior players, or are they EuroLeague players? Like, what is the sort of demographic that you're working with here?
Well, HBA is purely high school age kids.
Okay.
So they're the high school age kids. So they might come in, they might be still 15 but turning 16, and when they graduate, usually they're 19 years old, and a lot of them might go to college. That was part of my job, is also to kind of handle our players recruiting for the last 10 plus years. And then, in the best years, we had 5 guys go to Division 1, and then kind of, we also, obviously, a lot of them play for the junior national teams, and best guys already start being part of the senior national team during their senior year in high school, like Lauri Markkanen or Mikael Jantunen or several others. So and then I kind of got I told people, it's the greatest job you can have in Finland, coaching basketball, because I get to coach these guys in high school, like Lauri Markkanen, and then he become an NBA All-Star, but then still have a chance to coach him at the European Championships or World Championships when they're adults. So it's a pretty cool deal, and had a lot of fun and learned a lot. But I felt kind of my personal development. Now it's time to look for something else, whatever it is.
And Hanno, these you said these players, youth players, play in the Finnish, one of the divisions of the Finnish domestic league. Did
Yes.
your career kind of start the same way, where you were a young professional in a local league?
So HBA is it's a purely high school team, and then we play. Oh, now they play in the second highest men's league here. It's a semi-professional league. Some teams might have 3 Americans. So our 17-year-old center might go against a 28-year-old American who played at, might be a high major school, but, never could really pan out. So he's playing in the second highest league in Finland. When I was coming out in the, early 90s, I played 2 years in the top league, just purely as just a young guy amongst adults. And obviously it was a really good, kind of learning phase for me for 2 years, play that during my last couple of years of high school. And then I left Finland to go to college. So that was kind of my path the last couple of years.
Do you remember, Hanno, how we got connected? I feel like this was now like 5 or 6 years ago, and we talk kind of every few months. How did it start?
I think mutual friend Peter Lonergan in Australia. Probably Peter. I mean, such a great guy. I think we might have been in some group Zoom. It was probably pre-COVID, or even start, and we were in some of those. And I've always been extremely interested and open-minded about learning, and shooting has kind of naturally been part of my career. And then, I wanted to study it, and then, start following you and reading. And then when I had a chance to kind of, get to know you, through these Zoom meetings and phone calls, it's been a blast.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, you've been one of those. You said a simple word, open-minded, and I think that's one of those often overlooked character traits that that leads to exceptional. And I've always enjoyed chatting with you and learning from you and sharing with you, just because of that mindset. And I think, just to go back to Peter Lonergan, probably the most generous coach I've ever been around, just as far as like he seems to be in it for the sport, and just trying to connect as many people as he can and trying to do right by as many people as he can. He's just a wonderful person.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he hosted my first week in my Australian trip. I was out in Canberra, and I mean, it was a blast. Be with him, and he made sure I met every people I wanted to meet and talk to, and I mean, yeah, like you said, he's one of those diamonds in our profession, in our game, and obviously Australia, and just see how much people admire and appreciate him in his, not only in Canberra but around Australia. It's yeah.
So, Hanno, can you take? Why do I keep wanting to throw a U at the end? Hanno, can you talk to me about your journey in shooting? Like, beginning as a player, but then transferring as a coach. And I know through our conversations, you really have interest in this particular skill within the game. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of as, maybe not stupid as it sounds, but I I've always throwing, basketball, throwing, a baseball, throwing, even American football, or it's kind of just that mechanics has become easy, and that's why at the start of my career it was hard to my coaching career is hard to understand why for some people it doesn't come easy, like just so but I wasn't, when I grew up, in the early 90s. I mean, no one was really taking threes, and definitely not big guys. So but I just kind of started just kind of jacking them up, and then became decent. I don't know what my percentages were in high school, but then luckily got to college, and Keith Van Horn was obviously the main guy at the Utah at that time. And I had a chance to play with Keith for my first year. We only 1 year apart age wise, but he was 2 years early in the college, and the whole Utah program was basically running singles, staggers, even triple screens for Keith, and then I kind of landed his spot my last 3 years. So for 3 years, playing for one of the most incredible teachers of a game, Rick Majers, and the whole system was, setting different kind of screens for me. So so guards were setting down screen staggers for big guys in our system. It was myself, Michael Doliak, Keith Van Horn was there, Alex Jensen, now assistant with the Dallas Mavericks. So the big guys were shooters in Utah. So we were, truly 15, 20 years ahead of our time, especially in college. You still don't find colleges where 4 and 5 and 3 man are the best shooters, basically. So we were, kind of a special group. So learned all the techniques, foot techniques. But I learned, two huge things. The free throw is the most important shot in the game of basketball. And two, that bad shot selection kills you quicker than anything in basketball. Those are the Coach Majers' mantras, and it still holds true, 25 years later. So I learned to appreciate shooting and working on it. But yes, 25 years later, we certainly know a lot more about how to become a better shooter. But I was lucky to land into that special system, because easily that could have been just a guy who sets those screens to guards and I was, I was lucky. I played with Andre Miller for 3 years. So when you were coming off those staggers, that ball was coming right in the shot pocket, not here, and here. So it was in a lot of ways a dream spot for a big guy who wanted to become a shooter.
Hanno, in our pre-show, you said a thing that was really interesting to me. But in your career, how many threes per game did you average as a shooter?
I had, because we had a talk with Dave a couple of days ago, and so I had to go back and put up I think in Utah and in EuroLeague, I took about 2.3 shots a game, and in the EuroLeague I was a 40% 3-point shooter, and at that time I was a stretch 4, or if I was playing 5, a stretch, and I always felt like I was putting up a lot of threes. But most I ever took was maybe 3.5. One season I took about 3.5 in EuroLeague. And
Crazy.
now 20 years later, I would be jacking up 10 threes a game. So times have changed. I guess today's coaches or players understand that 3 is more than 2. But it's a different era. And coming out of college, the NBA. I certainly know that in that 2000 draft class, I was probably one of the better big man shooters. But still, like when I got to Atlanta, it wasn't like I was put to, let's start working on that NBA 3. I think I took probably 13 threes in 2 years, in whatever 160 games. So different times. Again, it's, and I used to be kind of a stat geek in the NBA, and I still remember, Larry Bird didn't make, I think his most he ever made a game was like a 1 point something threes a game. Think about it, and he's considered one of the best ever shooters.
Right.
And, I might be forgot something, but I think that's about right. So it's just it's a different game these days. But again, I think a lot of that my percentage came to I was taught what is a good shot, and like my brain, whether it's my strength or weakness, I kind of refuse to take a bad shot. So I probably passed up a lot of shots that the guys would be happy to check up, and I would just pass up to the next guy. So shot selection, and getting the techniques and and that really, I kind of had the knowledge that not shoot from a bad pass, not take a bad shot if there's someone else is open. That's how you get the percentages up. But obviously, if you want to be a volume shooter, you can't care about those.
I'm wondering, I went and I looked after our conversation. The current analytics, the threes are more valuable than twos, did not hold true in the first 10 years of the 3-point line. That in the 80s and the early 90s, it was 10 years before we had the first season where a 3-point shot at the NBA average compared to a 2-point shot at the NBA average were the same. And then from there, it started to the 3-point shot eclipsed the value of the 2-point shot. But then it took 25 years for people, the greater basketball population, to realize. I don't know what my larger point in furthering the conversation was in sharing that, but after our conversation, I was like, oh, wow, okay, that was true in the beginning, but then it took us forever to realize that it wasn't true anymore.
It is really interesting if you look at this sort of generation and somebody, so Hanno, I'm 36 and I lived through dial-up internet to high-speed internet where we had no internet and now we're using the phone line for internet, and we had wireless with no phone line. And I feel like guys like Kyle Korver sort of is that version of, from a 3-point standpoint, where when he got into the league, it's dial-up, it's pre-internet, where he's taken 3.5 a game, and that's a crazy. We can't even fathom him taking 4 threes a game. That's nuts. And then at the end of his career, when he's the 5th option and he's taken 7 a game, they're like, oh, let's see if we can get Kyle some more threes here. He's in full-on high-speed internet. But this generation experienced that at kind of breakneck pace. It is just fascinating to watch. I played professionally in 2012 in Canada. I am only a shooter. It's the only skill I do at this level. And it was a little early for me. So my value just existing on the floor wasn't appreciated, but it was like 4 or 5 years early to be somebody who only spaces the floor, providing value from a spacing perspective. So super fascinating journey, Hanno, in that respect.
Yeah, and it's then obviously thanks to Steph Curry. I mean, in my mind, he's the player that probably changed the game more than anyone, at least in the modern game.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do them because right now, no one can argue that there's probably a little too many threes taken, for example, in the NBA. We just saw the game last week, 97 threes were taken. And because there's a lot of shooters, guys who put up shots, but how many shot makers are there? So going 10 years ago, everybody just wanted to go, just go to the bucket and go for a dunk. Now everybody goes for a 3-point shot. So I guess everything kind of goes in a circle, but it'd be interesting to see when coaches are forcing teams to be more efficient behind the 3-point line.
Fellas, we've been going for a little while. Let's take a quick break, but I want to dig back into that when we come back from this.
Hey there, basketball fans. I'm NBA shooting coach Dave Love, and I've got exciting news just for you. Introducing my exclusive, free basketball shooting newsletter. It's packed with insights and techniques straight from the hardwood. Have you ever wondered how NBA players improve their shots? Or how you could get to the next level, whether you're a college player, a coach, or a budding youth player? My newsletter brings all this and more directly to your inbox. Each edition is a deep dive into the world of basketball shooting. I'll share some of the tips and ideas that I use with my NBA clients, tailored for every level of the game. But wait, there's more. Subscribers receive exclusive monthly discounts on my online products. From training videos to personalized coaching sessions, you'll get it all for a fraction of the price. And the best part of all, it's absolutely free to join. So what are you waiting for? Elevate your game and join a community of passionate players and coaches from around the globe. Signing up is easy. Just visit CoachDaveLove.com.
All right, welcome back. Hanno, before we went to break, you kind of asked a really important question about when do coaches kind of rein this in? And the analytics people in the front office say never, because you can't shoot enough threes. You know, Rio Grande Valley shot 75% or whatever the number was of their field goals as threes. Like, do you see an end in sight there? Like, when is it for you? When does that break even point kind of, when have we gone too far?
I mean, for me, it's like it's pure math. I mean, every coach will say if you shoot 50% 2-point field goals, everybody takes it. So what is that? That's 33%. So you don't really have to be a great 3-point shooter. That obviously it's the same points per shot, but it's I mean, I think just it has unfortunately taken a little bit away from the beauty of the game. That so many people are just jacking up threes. I think I think we are about to head to that direction where coaches they understand that, hey, even at the NBA level, they cannot let everybody just put up threes because the percentages are not there. I mean, if like in that shot, I can't remember what teams were. It was 22 out of 97, I believe. The two teams were combined. But I think what is interesting, like from coaching standpoint, which is, you asked me 10 years ago, it was like, no, crazy, absolutely not, is that the understanding that it doesn't really matter in the shot clock. If it's an open, good three, you got to take it at a high level. I'm talking about a FIBA high level NBA. So like a free, fast break, 3-on-2 fast break, you kick it to a wing, that you will not get a better shot 15 seconds later, even though how great X's and O's you can draw. So understand that is the three that we do want to take. Even though, 20 years ago, I mean, I would have been absolutely murdered if I would have taken that three. I mean, I can, rest his soul. But what Rick Majors would have said, I mean, it's not for this podcast. So I kind of accept that reality that an open three is a good three, and actually to take kind of quote from my good friend and now the first assistant for Memphis Grizzlies, Tuomas Iisalo, a great Finnish coach, just won the Euro Cup last year with Paris, and his teams in Europe had a very interesting and very simple rule that if the defense cannot alter your shot, meaning that if you don't have to speed up your motion, you can put up your normal shot. It doesn't matter how close the defense is. Like they're hand in the face, that doesn't matter. So they practice. For them, if you're one step away, but you can take your own normal three, it's just as open shot for them as there will be no defense. So if you go back to look at Paris basketball last year, or he's good, I mean, you see a lot of, for normal coaches, contested threes, but for them, it's a normal shot because they know how close the defense, has to be to actually alter the shot. So that's also like, what is an open shot? Well, 20 years ago it was, hey, no one can be even 5 steps from you. But now it's if I can go through my normal shot, I don't have to hurry. That's a good shot. So, but yeah, it'd be interesting. There's now obviously a lot of talk in the media, too many threes, taken. But yeah, it's I would say in the next couple of years, it's probably gonna maybe level off a little bit, I assume.
You are right. It's a very kind of topical, in the moment conversation. We had Chris Oliver on the podcast a couple of times, Basketball Immersion, and he said something to me that stuck with me from our first episode, where he said, team culture will often dictate what is a good shot and a bad shot. And I had never really thought about it in that way. I was always like, oh, as somebody who thinks the game well, that just felt like a bad shot and that felt like a good shot. But if team culture is saying that this step back, pull up, in transition is a good three, then guys are going to continue to take it because their teammates are going, good pull, great look, And so for the coaches out there, I think, like you're talking about establishing, if you don't have to rush, if you don't have to change the mechanics of your shot, if that is what your definition is, you do have to set almost guidelines or feelings around that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously that has changed so much.
Hmm.
What is and that's a great say that Chris said, you need to have a culture. What is a good shot? And obviously looking at those teams who put up, 10 guys out of 15 just putting up every 3-pointer they can, then that is the culture that probably as the analytics come into play these days. Sometimes mid-range, I'm still like, I fully understand that the mid-range is the worst shot mathematically. But then if you look at the history of NBA, how many best top scorers in the history, top 10 scorers, are not mid-range shooters? There ain't many. I mean, even Kareem's skyhook was a 10, 15 footer, So, I mean, you look at, Nowitzki, obviously MJ. I mean, LeBron is kind of the only one who's not a really mid-range. I mean, Karl Malone, everybody's a mid-range shooter. So, like, I kind of joke, like, I kind of, built my current house with a either 3-point or shot fake, one dribble pull up. I mastered that, because especially towards the end of my career, I didn't want to go there, and I didn't want to, didn't get up, on my dunks that high anymore. So that was if you, but again, can everybody take that pull up? No, just like everybody should not be taking every shot they get.
Hanno, you talked about a passion for shooting, just kind of shifting the conversation a little bit. What are the resources? Like, I get asked this all the time. What are the resources you go to with a growth mindset to help you improve how you teach shooting?
Well, probably, talk to and follow someone like yourself. Obviously, just like probably every player, my first couple years of coaching, I coach the exact same way I was taught, and then luckily we have a pretty, it's kind of open-minded coaching culture in Finland. We understand that especially in a lot of sports, but in basketball, if you want to be really good, we have only 22,000 licensed basketball players in Finland. Let's go Australia, 750,000, France, 1 million. I don't know how many Canada has. So we're never going to have the best roster. It's mathematically impossible. But there's no reason why we can't be the best coaches in Europe. So we are pretty hungry to learn, and we know we cannot be stuck into our own ways, our old ways. So I'll be kind of, and I guess kind of my pretty good playing career and my personality, I'm like, I don't mind telling people that, the classical quote that every day I know that I know less. So I'm searching for, like, I don't mind saying, like, hey, and it took me a couple of years, but even to players, like, it's okay to say, I don't know. Let's figure out this together. So yeah, the first couple of years were just very mechanical, 1-on-0. Let's, everything is, there was a perfect shot. Just like you tell now people that there is no perfect shot, but absolutely there was a perfect shot in my mind, because that was the way I was taught. Um, and kind of going, I mean, there's still something to that I think still believe that you're supposed to get that if you can, in a normal, like a right left, 2-step stop, if you can curl, nice elbow jumper and go into rhythm and get a shot off, with our defense, and it should look pretty good. You're probably going to have a lot of trouble if we start adding constraints and defense. So I think there's a lot to that yes, you should have a good base and kind of those fundamentals, but obviously it's not that you got to work on those long enough and now you graduate. Now we can start adding difficulty. No, you throw a lot of constraints early on, but still. So I yeah, and so I lucky to internet. It can be a great friend for hungry coaches, and obviously it can also be a there's it's a hard place to if you don't kind of understand it. There's so much information and like a lot of smart people saying, I mean, if you do everything the internet tells you, you have you don't have identity. You're just trying things left and right. So so trying out a lot of things, and I kind of learned to start asking questions from the players. How do you feel? How does that feel? Early on my coaching career, I was telling like, no, you should do this. No, that wasn't right. Hey, do this, and then asking questions and kind of lead them to the right answer and kind of the right answer I want. But if they feel like, hey, yeah, that feel actually good, well then let's keep on working on that. So um, yeah, I mean it's been a fun journey to kind of always maybe take a couple of players every year. Obviously, we have team practices and that and team setting and all that, but obviously understanding more and more that shooting is like Adam Caporn, who was the head coach at the Center of Excellence and now assistant coach in the NBA Australia. I mean, I think he said the best that the shooting is the only master skill in basketball. And kind of from that was probably around the same time we probably met first. So like 5 years ago, probably when Adam said it, at least when I heard it, like I started approaching we start planning for practice. Well, normal way how we do it. Okay, we have the warm-up drills here. We have the defensive shell, all that transition, 5-on-5, and then let's shoot in the middle here. Let's shoot there, and then at the end. Well, what if it is actually the most important skill in the game of basketball? What if that's the first thing? Okay, now we're going to practice shooting, scoring here, here, and here, and let's do a little bit of ball screen defense in the middle, a little bit of like actually in your talks, just in your coaching meeting, let's make that the most important. And I was trying to push it, in my own, and then in our staff, but obviously it's a process, and obviously players enjoy a lot more when they see improvements, and then we had some good stories, and then some guys who at least with my help or our help haven't really improved, but that's life.
You said something about the positives and the drawbacks of the internet, and sort of like you've now got a mountain of information and access to wonderful information, but unfortunately, part of that mountain is also the less helpful information. Matt and I always kind of joke about there are people on Instagram that have a ton of followers and will share their opinion of ideas that the research absolutely does not back up what they're suggesting. And how do you practically, like, can you give people an idea of like how do you sort through? And this person has 500,000 Instagram followers, and this drill seems to make a lot of sense. Like, what's your process for figuring out, is this gold or is this garbage?
That's and there might always be a little piece of gold in that garbage,
Right.
So that's kind of I mean I love I used to follow more of some trainers a little more, but once I start kind of understanding that a lot of that 1-on-0 is it's great if our game was was refereed like figure skating, but hey, that hey, like that, hey, that move that move was beautiful. You got 2.4 points for that. You know, so and that's the way I was started, and that's obviously like I coach, individual skill early on my career. Like, hey, 1-on-0, no constraints. Let's go do this same and same again and again until I kind of understand that you're never gonna have the same shot twice in your career, never, or same layup. Like why does 99.9% of basketball teams in the world, their warm up is 45-degree layup? Because how many times, unless you're a U10 player, how many of those you have in your seasons? So so I kind of like start little changing the warm ups and things like that. But it is hard because a lot of times, you know, the at least what I believe are good advices, they don't look cool. They don't have all the bling bling and it's tough. It's tough, and especially if you're a young coach, and you wanna obviously impress the players and try to teach them, help them something that looks cool, because the players are watching a lot of the trainers, and every trainer has something good to offer, but they want to learn those moves. But then if you ask them, all right, how many times this season or past season, let's go to synergy, let's take every single of your shot. How many, double crossover step back threes you took last season? All right. So why we work on it? You have no problem working on your own, but like that's not the one who's going to get you a college scholarship or get you to junior national team or get you to EuroLeague. That's not the one. It's the the normal looking shots, not as sexy. So it is but obviously you need to throw some cool and fun stuff for the players and let them also dictate what they want to work on. But social media is it's tough to navigate for sure, as a coach.
One of the first things you said about yourself is the open-minded piece, and you saying even with all the garbage there's pieces of gold in there is proof of that. So thank you very much for that. Secondly, we're going to go to a break here in a second, but Dave and I were talking a couple of weeks ago about shooting spots. And Hanno, when you were at Utah and when you were just getting work up, you're doing spots and you get the rebounder under the hoop and they're kicking out to you and you're knocking down your open threes. How amazing did that feel? One time every 3 games where the big guy, the other big, gets an offensive rebound and kicks out to you for an open 3, and it feels so comfortable because you've taken that shot 1 million times. But it's once every 3 games. And Dave has really opened my eyes, and this line of thinking has really opened my eyes that we need to add variability to all of these guys' training because, like you said, no shot is the same. Even that kick out that's directly from under the hoop is at an angle that's slightly different than I'm used to shooting, or the footwork was a little weird, or whatever it is. So yeah, thank you very much for that. It really is just banging home all these kinds of things that we've been talking about at Hanno. This is great. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back with Hammer Action.
Hey there, basketball fans. Coach Dave Love here with an exciting opportunity to revolutionize your shooting game. Introducing my exclusive shot development systems, Pure Release, Consistency and Balance, and Fluidity and Arc. Each system is designed to target key aspects of your shooting technique, transforming you into a more effective player on the court. Pure Release focuses on perfecting your shot release. Consistency and Balance enhances your stability and accuracy, and Fluidity and Arc works on your ball path and trajectory of your shot. Find out the drills and progressions that I use with my NBA players to improve these important habits. Can't decide which one to choose? No worries, grab the bundle and get all 3 systems at a fantastic value. It's a complete package to elevate every part of your shooting game. And there's a special deal for all my podcast listeners. Use the promo code PODCAST20 at checkout to save 20% on any of the shot development systems.
Don't miss this chance to train like the pros. Visit CoachDaveLove.com/store and take your first step towards shooting success. That's CoachDaveLove.com/store.
All right, welcome back. So, Hanno, and for new listeners, Hammer Action is the segment of the episode where we hammer home some actionable items. And we have really had a free-flowing conversation. We've covered the evolution of the three-point shot, your evolution as a player and as a coach. Dave, I'm going to start with you. From our 40-ish minute conversation, 50-minute, gracious, we can never stay under an hour. What is an actionable item here that we can kind of go to say, you know what, this is a piece here that people should be thinking about once they turn it over to the next podcast?
Can I flip this a little bit? Can I ask a guided question to Hanno to get to help him with his hammer action, and then maybe he can do the same for me? So Hanno, what if you could take your knowledge, and let's go in the shooting realm, your knowledge of shooting and shooting development that you have now, and go back and teach it to yourself in your first year of coaching, what would be the one or two things that you would teach yourself to do differently than you actually started?
Obviously, not trying to teach a perfect shot, because that'll be probably the thing. But and kind of what you've been saying numerous times in our conversations and your podcast, that just to be more adaptable, because I'm a kind of living proof. If I was open coming off those unbelievable down screens, especially 25 years ago in college, you can set up monster screens and no call. I mean, I know I get my right, left, right, boom. It was pretty good, but I was never able to take those little bit uncomfortable shots in my career because we never practiced those, because it was not considered a good shot. So more adaptable, and less, like Matt said, less passing underneath from basket. Try to come up with something. If it's a fair shooting, somehow don't pass from under the basket. I think that's how we have taught, and we have all trained, our whole lives, and I believe that's one reason why we're kind of limiting right now is 45% should be looking like the top that humans can shoot threes, but I think there's going to be a 60% 3-point shooter. So yeah, definitely that's one. And then I think overall be more open-minded to that every player and their bodies are different. Their body mechanics are different. Don't try to put them into this one mold, which you were taught, and something that came easy to you. Yes, I mean, have some of those non-negotiables. Like I'm huge on the balance and the footwork of being wide and having so I think those are probably the ones. Don't look for perfect shot, and then understanding more quicker that every people are different. Their shot is it's kind of a signature. It's the ID of you as a basketball player, and so I think that would speed up the process of helping those young players. If I knew that 10 plus years ago.
One of the things we kind of pride ourselves on in the podcast is being willing to be vulnerable and being willing to admit fault, not fault. Admit, Matt. What am I trying to? Weakness.
It's not ignorance. It's just sometimes you don't know. Sometimes it's weakness. Sometimes it's something I was doing poorly or differently less optimally than I should be.
Yeah, and we try and normalize that, and my answers are going to be almost identical to yours, and even to, if I can go to an extreme. Matt and I have been doing this podcast now for a year, and I think one of our next episodes is going to be something along the lines of, I disagree with me. and let's go back to just things that I said 8 months ago that I'm like, new thinking on that. And I think we should always, to your point, we should always be striving for that. We avoid that actively. And I think we should be striving for that kind of, no, I want to learn more. And along the way, I'm probably going to change my thinking on different things and disagree with my old self.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I think kind of to add a little bit what I said, like, I mean, overall, not only on the basketball, I mean, the shooting, coaching shooting, but overall everything. I mean, it's not until like last couple of years I've truly understood that. I mean, it doesn't matter what I know at all about a game plan, about whatever. When you ask the player, how does that feel? How do you understand this? That's the only thing that matters. So I call it, and we kind of joke around. I call it alibi coaching. That's when I tell you everything I know. We tell everything about the opponent, and then when we can't get it done, I can go back in the film room and film meeting after practice and yell at the player because, hey, we told you this is gonna, like, well, they weren't able to execute it because they understood it differently, and then in the game of basketball you have 5 players. They're going to understand every single word you said. Those 5 players are going to understand differently. One-on-one shooting, if we're teaching shooting, what I tell the player, he's going to understand it. He feels it a lot differently. So it's almost like trying to get the player to coach themselves and just be listening there and asking questions. I think that's when the player kind of opens up and he understands that he's kind of vulnerable to this, and he opens up and don't fight against maybe a change. When you turn it around and make him like he feels that he's the one who's coaching himself. So that's what I said. I never said that I helped that guy or I coached that guy. I was like, hey, I was lucky to be part of his development, because that's the truth.
Right. I feel like Hanno's dropped 2 bombs: the alibi coaching and the figure skating scoring. Between those two, those will definitely be long featured clips on Twitter.
Yeah. No, I told you. I mean, really quick, because I was this past, yesterday actually. I visited our Finnish men's gymnastics national team training because they have a very good veteran coach, and I was there just following them for 3 hours because it is a sport where they need the perfection. And I talked to the coach about it, like it's fine. Like, you have to go for the perfection because the move is same every time. And then ours is, there is no perfection. We don't know the environment that action has to be executed at. So we just have to be kind of guessing and showing, more and more opportunities for the players to adapt to different situations. So it was very interesting to follow them and how open-minded they are, and they're the athletes where they were coaching themselves. The coaches said very little in 3 hours, which was fascinating. And I promised to myself, like, hey, shut up. The next practice, just try to be quiet for 5 minutes. Because at least in our practice, it's some coaches always on, hey, let's go, yeah, good, let's go. Why don't if we shut up and let the players, because we think that we should be opening our mouth and explaining and making sure that everybody understands that, hey, we can coach. Like this veteran gymnastic coach told me, like, hey, for him, the biggest talent and wisdom of coaching is to be quiet. And that's gymnastics. But and you look at the really, really good veteran coaches, they're not the rah coaches where they said few words and usually give the clipboard to the player, because they know they have helped those players during the week, and players going to take care of a game.
I'm going to say something. I love that you brought up the gymnastics. When we were having that conversation a couple of days ago, I thought this needs to be a part of the podcast, and then I forgot about it. So I'm glad you brought it up. I'm going to say something that I think would make one of my skill acquisition mentors very proud, and suggest that even though the gymnast is striving for the perfect movement, the way that they might learn that could involve far more differential learning than we anticipate. And that if I were to teach somebody knowing nothing about gymnastics how to do like a front flip on the balance beam, I might start by saying, I want you to fall off on the left side on this one. I want you to fall off on the right side. I want you to under rotate this one without killing yourself, if that's possible, and over rotate this one. And that, to your point about there is no perfect way, and stop rehearsing the perfect shot. I'm looking back at my form shooting drills that we featured in an episode of the podcast not long ago, and saying, do I need to either dramatically reduce the amount that I use this? I think that's the answer, or eliminate these altogether. And that they're designed around like the perfect movement. So that's what's going on in my head, is teach the mistakes more to guide towards all the movement solutions, and don't teach the ideal motion. And it's freaking hard. It scares me
Yeah,
to death.
yeah, yeah. And I think, I wasn't the greatest, shooting coach early, but I still understood that there is no quick fix. Like it's few years when you go from a high school age average shooter to a good shooter at adult level, or getting ready for that. It takes a couple of years for sure, 3-4 years to reach something that becomes a fluent, so there's no easy and quick, quick prizes here, but to kind of guide the players into the right direction. And then again, if you gotta shoot, you gotta love to shoot. There's no substitution to that. I'm not saying that, hey, go be in the gym on your own and putting up 1,000 shots a day. It's not gonna hurt you, but to understand that there needs to be a lot of constraint led shooting, different, I mean, in a lot of ways, 1-on-1 is the greatest shooting drill there is, and then putting little different nuggets into there, some rules, which I like to kind of coach. We should manipulate the environment that the players are playing. For me, that, like, I understand constraint led approach. For me, it sounds a little, at least when I try to tell it and translate to Finnish, like I like to use, like, I try to manipulate the environment of a drill. For me, it's easier to understand, at least, you know, maybe I'm not a scientific person enough, but anyway, meaning the same thing. So when you find those one-on-one drills, and I've lucky to talk to some great coaches, and just easy one-on-one drills where there's an advantage, there's a disadvantage, and there's maybe a shot restriction, shot clock restriction. Those are the that's how you get the best game shots. That's game shooting. You might only get 30 shots, compared to 300 if you just putting up threes. But I believe those 30 shots are more valuable
Yeah.
than those kind of empty shots.
Quality over quantity when it comes to game representativeness is something that we appreciate and definitely hammer home. Dave, anything else you want to cover here? Hanno, this has been an absolute delight.
Yeah, connect with Hanno. We got to figure out a way to, number one, get him over to North America more often. And Hanno, I'm looking at being in Europe potentially in April. And so just know I'll be making a phone call in the next week or so Christmas time, next 2 weeks or so, to to see if there's an opportunity on us doing something together on that. Coach Dave love to sign up for the newsletter, but yeah, Hanno, how do people find you?
Wow, I try to actually downgrade on my my social media. I'm more kind of just a following but I guess just my first name, last name on Instagram. You can email me hanno@basket.fi as a Finland, so hanno@basket.fi. And I'd love to connect with people. Usually, I learn more than they learn from me, so so it's always a positive return for me.
Be careful giving out your email on this podcast, because you will literally get dozens of emails.
Well, then I change it if it becomes too much of a burden. But no, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, and we definitely add on another hour and a half, but that's for another time.
I love it. Thanks for the time, buddy. Maddie, how do people find you?
I am Matt Robertson on LinkedIn, at Coach Matty Rob on X, Twitter. Shout out to all the listeners who stuck with us to the end. Really appreciate your time. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend. Shout out to my cat Griffin, who really wanted to be a part of this episode, and I had to shoo him away 7 times. Thanks for sticking with us. Dave, you're the best. Hanno, a pleasure. And everybody else, see us next week.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Coach Dave Love Podcast. To stay up to date with our future episodes, please remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to sign up for Coach Love's free shooting newsletter on CoachDaveLove.com, and be sure to follow him on social media. You can find him at Coach Dave Love.